Are you ready to see a Victorian tenement flat that looks like it's part of a museum? We've bought this Victorian tenement flat at the Scottish seaside about half a year ago, and ever since we've done a lot of renovations to make this place more Victorian, more traditional and more old-fashioned. It looks quite different to what it looked like when we first moved in, and I've covered some of the renovations in past videos, but I thought since half a year has now passed, I'd do a little recap and show you what our flat looks like now. So welcome into our hallway, which is surprisingly big for a tenement flat. So when we first moved in here, the lower part of the hallway was actually pink and the top part was orange. So we've turned this into a very light powdery pink, which feels very neutral. It's still quite warm because this room doesn't get any natural light. You can see our Victorian hall stand here. I have always dreamt of having a hall stand like this. It's not actually super sturdy. We don't really use it for hanging our coats. It's just decorative, but I love it. And I've always wanted to have something like this. And our previous flat had a tiny hallway, so we never were able to put anything into the hallway. So this feels like such a win to finally have space to put this here. For this little table, it's actually a funny story because I found it in the local charity shop here and it was only £10. And I was like, there's no way I'm leaving this. So we carried this table the entire way back from the city center of the town we live in, which, you know, isn't that far, and the table isn't that heavy, but it did eventually get quite heavy. But it's totally worth it. It fits in here perfectly. And also I've got my little Edwardian lamp here. I don't know whether it's an actual antique or whether it's just a replica, but I love it. It's got this little Edwardian lady on it. Let me turn on the light for you guys. Is that stunning? I actually bought it for the renovation of the bedroom, but when it arrived I was like, no, it needs to be in the hallway because it's just so stunning. I want everyone to see it. But that's as much as I can say about the hallway, so let's take a look at the living room. So welcome to the living room, which is the room that completely sold us on the flat when we first viewed it. During the viewing, the room was still very yellow, but just the size of it is absolutely amazing. Our old flat was a 2-bedroom flat on 50 square meters, so every single room was just a little bit smaller than it should have been to be practical. Whereas this flat is a 3-bedroom flat on 100 square meters, so every single room is just a little bit bigger than it needs to be, which is a really good problem to have. Also, the ceiling is about 3.5 meters high, so it just feels gigantic. So I know that some people were quite fond of the yellow that was in here, but obviously we painted it green because I love green, Jack loves green. It just felt like the natural choice. And also the cornicing is cracking in some places, so the yellow felt too modern with it, whereas with the green it's almost like a haunted mansion. Like as soon as we painted it green, it just felt like it made sense. But then also we had the wallpaper from the ceiling removed because that kind of was falling off, and we knew there was an issue underneath it when we bought the flat. And then we realized that actually in that corner up there was a massive crack that was loose, so the ceiling wasn't secured properly anymore. So we had to get someone in to have it secured and had everything meshed and like drilled in and then plastered over it. So currently the ceiling is just plastered and I'm planning to paint it one day. I keep saying I will paint it. It will happen. Just we'll see when. But generally speaking, everything in this room other than the sofa and the bookshelf are antique. So we really like our antique furniture. We also got the antique record player, and then obviously the fireplace that we had installed because when we first moved in there was this tiled fire hearth thingy and a white surround, and everything was quite not even modern, more like retro, but not really fitting the aesthetic of the room. So we had all of that ripped out and had an antique fireplace that we sourced off eBay installed, and also the mantle is antique as well, just to make sure everything fits the theme and that everything just feels very Victorian. And we've got a frame around the TV now, and I know in one of my previous videos I said I might do it with you, but I actually decided to do it with Jack because I'm not very good at sawing things because I'm not very strong. And you know how like building stuff together is always a bit of a challenge to your marriage. So I didn't really feel like filming it. So talking about electronic stuff, like obviously we've got a TV, we've got electricity in here, we've got internet. And as you can see, there is a cupboard back there. And even though Jack really likes his vintage things, he also really likes his tech stuff. So that is where he gets to hide all of the things that we don't want to see around the flat. Let me show you. So yes, this is an F1 simulator seat. Do not ask any questions. This has nothing to do with me. Gotta tolerate our husband's hobbies, don't we? So this room is southwest facing, so we do get a lot of sunlight here. And currently it's just before lunchtime and we're getting direct sunlight, and then we'll be getting direct sunlight until the end of the day, and we can see a sunset over there, over the mountains, which is really nice. But I just wanted to say all of the stained glass that's on the higher bits of the windows is not original, so I actually just ended up putting some very cheap stickers on there because I thought maybe it will work, and it did actually work out. So I was quite surprised by it, but I feel like it does add a lot of detail and character to this window, because the window is actually so big that it almost feels a little bit empty. When we first moved in, it was right before Christmas, so we just had a few weeks before we got the Christmas tree, and the Christmas tree filled out the entire window, and once it was gone, it just felt very empty. So then I decided to put on the little stained glass stickers, and it just really adds character and also works very well with the green of the room. The pets really enjoy sitting in the sun around here. So now welcome to the bedroom. So this is actually the last room that I painted because I wasn't really sure what to do with this room. When we first moved in, it was just very yellow and also very big. We originally wanted to use one of the other rooms as the bedroom, which is currently Jack's dressing room, which I will come to later. But there was an issue with the windows because they're only single glazed and they're actually very leaky and very drafty. So we decided to use this room for the bedroom for now. But actually we've grown quite comfortable in here, so we might just keep it as the bedroom forever. So I'm not sure whether there's much to say about this room other than that it is a bedroom. I feel like it's much cozier now that we've painted it red, even though the ceiling is still kind of like an buttery yellow, which I might paint one day, but I'm not very fond of painting ceilings, as you were able to tell in the living room. And if you see any dirty paw prints on the bed sheets, no, you don't. I did change the bed sheets yesterday for this video, but ever since, the puppy got mucky, and Archie basically lives in this bed, so he just got the bed sheets mucky as well. But the bedroom also holds my closet, and originally I wanted this closet changed because I hate mirrored doors. But actually it's quite nice to have a big mirror, and it just doesn't feel like one of those things that urgently need changed, like getting the ceiling repaired in the living room. So we just haven't really gotten to it, and I'm not sure we will, because it kind of feels like when you first move in, you're so eager to do everything and to change everything immediately, and then you settle a little bit and suddenly you're like, it's fine. But it is a really big wardrobe, and even though I don't love it and we were considering ripping it out completely, now that I've been using it for a while, it is so much better than what I used to have. So it's not like my dream wardrobe, but it just holds everything I own very comfortably, so I can't really complain about it. And then we've made it to my sewing room, which will be very familiar to most of you guys because this is where I film most of my content. So this was one of the earlier rooms that I renovated. I think it was actually the first renovation video I put out because I was quite eager to get this finished because I had to just continue filming content. But also I get ready here every single morning, and it was very blue before, and I really didn't like the blue. Like, it was also a weird combination of blue and orange, which seems to be a theme in this house, that just colors that shouldn't go together were put together. So every single morning I would get ready by the window here and just see the blue in the background, and I'm like, ugh. So it didn't sit right with me, I just needed it to be green. So this is the Book Room Green by Little Greene, and I absolutely love the color. It is sometimes a little bit problematic when filming because things become quite green in here. So sometimes just the color balance isn't quite right of the things I film, but generally speaking, it makes me so happy. It is the perfect color, and especially now that spring is here, it is such a springy color, which is why you've seen me make so many dresses in this exact color. So this is the desk from which I do most of my work and also all of my sewing. And the most important thing is actually the view, because from up here you have this amazing stunning view almost all the way to the Highlands. And also I know that whenever I show you my views, people are shouting at me that I'm not supposed to show the view from my flat on the internet because it's dangerous, but also it's just something I really love, and I just love sharing stuff on my channel that I love. So I feel like I will show you a snippet, but if you want to see more of my view, it's obviously in the old videos as well. I'll keep it a little bit shorter here because I know you guys don't like it when I do that. But mainly I just sit here and I look outside, and it feels very much like a view that Sophie Hatter would have from one of her seaside towns, which is something that someone commented in one of my videos, and it just, like, every time I look outside I now think about it and it makes me so happy. Other than that, in this corner, I've got my little antique display cabinet, which holds all of my sewing things, which is maybe not the best way of storing my sewing things because they're quite untidy, especially everything down here. But then this is a sewing room, so I don't feel any shame in untidy sewing supplies. And obviously I've got my mannequin right behind me, which you see in many of my videos. Then we've got the fireplace around, which was originally in the living room, which we brought over here because there is actually originally a fireplace behind that. It's like bricked up now, but it would have been here, so it makes sense for there to be a fireplace in here. It takes up a lot of space without actually having any function, but it looks very pretty and it kind of makes sense in these old flats. If you want to hear more about how I made this fireplace, especially with this little like tile thingy here, which is just stickers, I did a whole video about this room where I went step by step on everything that I've done in here. And the last bedroom is Jack's dressing room, and it's actually really echoey in here. So none of the things that are happening in here are down to my decisions, but then it's good for him to have a room as well and all of the stuff to be out of the way. And I think this room was actually one of the reasons he was really keen on the flat, because it's got this massive built-in wardrobe, which he completely just filled with all of his stuff because he loves just having everything super organized, whereas I can happily live with a wardrobe where I just squeeze stuff in. I'm very chaotic, organized, whereas he's more organized, chaotic, if that makes sense at all. Yeah, so he just has his stuff in here. He's got his clothes, his trouser press, his steamer. It's actually this stand and the little mirror here used to be in the hallway when we first moved in. I was trying to convince Jack to put this into the living room because I really liked it, but he was like, I want something nice in my room as well. So it is here now. He also has some workout equipment in here, which he has used exactly once in his life so far. We originally really wanted this to be the bedroom because it has the nice views, it has the wardrobe, it kind of made sense. So I think in the long term, when we get the windows repaired, we might move the bedroom in here after all, because like in theory, we don't need as big a bedroom as this room over there is. And then, you know, if things needed to move around in the flat, this might be fine. Welcome to the kitchen. So as you can tell from the angle of the camera, it is not the biggest room, and I really don't like it. So I don't really want to spend too much time in here. It's not any inspirational kind of post about this is what your dream kitchen would look like. This is just very much a work in progress. So what I've done so far is I've painted the tiles behind me. Originally they were this turquoisey gray, and I should say they weren't marble, obviously they were just tiles with a print on them, so if you looked really closely you could actually see that it was printed. So I didn't feel very passionate about them. Actually I did feel passionate about them. I hated them passionately, especially because you can see them from the living room. They were just so busy, especially in a room so small. So now obviously, like, very surprising, they are beige and green, but I will show you in a second. Actually the other side of the kitchen over the hob has beige and green tiles, so it kind of made sense to make them the same color, so it feels like that side of the kitchen and this side of the kitchen belong together. Other than that, I painted the walls white. Again, not the most exciting choice, but before it was again orange and turquoise, but a different turquoise to the tiles and to the kitchen cabinet. So just a lot of different blues in here with the green. So yeah, so it's yeah. Additionally, we didn't have a fridge when we moved in. So the previous owners had the fridge in the sewing room pantry cupboard, which is just way too far away to make sense for a fridge to be in there. They had the oven where we currently have our fridge. Then there's a dishwasher underneath the hob where an oven would make more sense to be. And then we've got the washing machine right here. So it's just a lot of appliances that had to be fitted into this teeny tiny kitchen. And the only way to make it work for us was to move the oven, Tilly, could you not, up, and then put a small fridge underneath. So like, this doesn't make sense, I know. And everyone's just like, whenever people see it, they're like, why do you have the oven so very high? Not because we wanted a high oven, but just because it didn't really work the other way around. Like, having the fridge on top of the oven and all of the hot air going past the fridge just didn't make sense. So we did it this way, and as you can tell, I've got a little set of ladders here. So when I use the oven, I actually climb onto the ladder. And whenever we have to take something out of the oven that's a little bit more difficult to handle, like a roast chicken, Jack does it. So that's kind of what we're doing now. It kind of works. It's not amazing. I didn't really clean the kitchen either because I don't feel like it's an amazing room, but just to be complete and honest about what the flat looks like, I will show you anyways, just so that you realize that not everything is amazing. Like, yes, we've got this amazing flat and every single room looks great, but the kitchen doesn't. Because I often feel like when people, like especially like influencers who do interior stuff, their house looks amazing and every single corner is amazing. So let me tell you, that's not the case here. That's not the case anywhere actually, but I'm being honest about it. The kitchen is just a mess, and it's fine. Maybe one day we can get it redone and just rip everything out. I do actually have a pot of kitchen paint right there because I wanted to paint the cabinets, which is why this one up here is actually stripped already. But it's just such a massive task, and it's so oily, and I will do it. I will do it one day. But the day just hasn't come yet. It's going to be the same day that I paint the living room ceilings. So bear with me. It will eventually look nicer. I think it will look really lovely. I'll actually show you the color I picked. Ta-da. So I tried multiple different reds. They're from Rust-Oleum. So I decided to go with this red, and that is the green of the tiles behind me. So it will all just be very red and green, which is a theme of the flat, but I really like it. I like that all rooms kind of make sense together. Like, I don't think every single room has to be a vastly different color. It's nice if there's a theme that kind of goes throughout the flat and everything feels like it just belongs together. So red and green in here, red and green everywhere. But still, up to this moment, it is turquoise, sandy, yellow wood and green. So now welcome to the very last room of the flat, which is the bathroom. So I feel a little bit indifferent about this bathroom because I feel like I wouldn't have chosen it to be this way by any means. Like, this is the same tile that was in the kitchen, but just in orange, and I really don't like orange, and just whoever owned this flat before really liked orange and blue, especially together. So yeah, and also every single tile is exactly the same as the one next to it, so it's not even pretending like it's real marble. It's just like very obvious about, like, this is a print. I am a print and this is a print and we're exactly the same. But then also it does have a little bit of like a fake stained glass window. It has the appliances actually quite nicely done, so they're all quite old, but they're done in like a vintage style. And it's got a little light at the mirror, so it doesn't have a lot of storage, that's the one thing. But other than that, it's fine. Yeah, so very indifferent feelings about it. Like, I don't hate it enough to go out of my way to live somewhere else for like a week or two to have it redone, because obviously we only have one bathroom, so if we were to redo it, we'd have to stay somewhere else because I have to pee like 20 times a day. So I definitely can't go without a bathroom. But it's got a window, which is already such a massive plus, because a lot of bathrooms in Scotland are actually put just into cupboard rooms. So that was what happened in our old flat, and then it didn't have any ventilation and you'd always get so much moisture in there. So this having a window just changes everything. I feel like I'm coming to terms with the fact that not every single room of my flat has to be perfect and amazing. It's just a room. It just does what it does, and I don't think I'll ever be filming a lot of content in here, but it's enough to brush my teeth in the morning and to wash my hair, so it will do. And that brings us to the end of the flat tour. So just a few summarizing thoughts. I feel like I'm very happy with how the flat is turning out. We obviously knew it had a lot of potential when we first moved in, and it is a period flat that was built in, I think, 1906. So it's not actually Victorian. I've been claiming it is Victorian, but then later I found out it's actually an Edwardian flat. So it does have all of the features. It has the cornicing, it has the super high ceilings, it's got the ceiling roses and everything. So there is a lot already here to work with that made it easy to turn it into a Victorian home. But obviously having mainly antique furniture really does help. And also just trying to style things in a way that would have originally been done this way, just to make everything seem more coherent and just trying to bring back the purpose that things were invented for in the first place. And also I'm really glad that I had the chance to properly bond with this flat, because when we moved into our old flat, we were both working in Glasgow and we were gone for like 12, 13 hours a day. So it often felt like we weren't actually in the flat for long enough to actually enjoy it. Whereas for the past half year, I've been writing up my thesis from home. So I've been kind of a YouTuber, content creator, while still living off my studentship, which has now run out. So I'm currently unemployed, which is great because it means I can do all the fun things that I enjoy to really make this place feel like the place that I belong. And I'm really happy with how it turned out. I feel like just all rooms being a little bit bigger just makes it easier to breathe. And I can see the sky and I can see the mountains and I can see the sea. It's really becoming a home for me. I also feel like Tilly, our cat, was often a little bit stressed in the old flat because it was very small and obviously she could see cats in the garden. And then Archie, our dog, also was in the flat and everyone was just a little bit stressed by how tight everything was. So now everything has room, you know, Tilly is much happier, Archie's much happier. They both have separate spaces in the flat because they tolerate each other, but they don't love each other. So she's mainly in the living room, he's mainly in the bedroom, and they don't really get in each other's way. And even when I'm here, it feels like we all have our spaces. Like Jack's got his room, I've got my room, and everything is just coming together nicely. So obviously we're not done here. You guys know I still have to paint the ceiling. I still have to paint Jack's room eventually because he's really not made his mind up on what he actually wants me to do with it. So I'm not going to paint it until he does. Then we need to do some serious work on the kitchen. And obviously, maybe we need to replace some windows as well. So that is a bit more of a costly thing that we've been pushing away. But the windows in the Greene room, in Jack's room, need replacing as soon as possible. Whereas the ones in the sewing room, they're the same kind of windows. They're the original Victorian windows. So they have been silicone shut. So they're not as drafty, but they're also quite rotten. So ideally we would get them replaced as well. But fun fact, all of the windows that are everywhere else in the flat, which are from the 90s, are actually worse. So in an ideal world, we would replace all of the windows and just have proper sash windows put in, which is what we did in the old flat. But this living room alone has as many windows as our old flat had. So we're talking about like £20,000 here or something to do all of the windows. So it just often feels like many things that were done to these flats in like the 70s and 80s and 90s were worse than if the original features had just been kept. So I think we can get the original windows restored and reinstalled so they'd still be single glazed, but they'd just not be rotting anymore, which is cheaper than getting new windows done. So if we just had the original windows everywhere, we could have just done that to everything. I mean, same about the fireplace, right? Because we had to reinstall a fireplace because someone ripped out the original features. And this is something that's very common in Scotland. So you will find a lot of these tenement flats actually stripped of all of its nice features. So you'll find flats that don't have any cornicing, flats that even have lowered ceilings and things like that, just because at some point in the 60s and 70s, these original Victorian features weren't seen as something desirable anymore. Whereas now tenement flats in Glasgow and in Edinburgh are the most desired place to live. So all of these original features are just very pretty and people finally appreciate them again. Obviously, people don't always live in what basically feels like a museum. Lots of the inspiration we got for this flat are from the Tenement house in Glasgow, which is a museum for how original tenement flats used to look. Then obviously the Beamish Museum has amazing interiors. That was a huge inspiration for us as well. And maybe if you like this video, our flat might become an inspiration to you as well. That brings me to the end, and I hope you enjoyed this and maybe you learned something, or at least you found some inspiration. And I shall continue with sewing content in my next video, so I hope I'll see you then. Why do you have to sit on me every time I finish my video, huh? No. Come on then. Good girl.